We're fine. You know, it was 24-14, down 10. But, I mean, yeah, we're down 10, and, you know, we knew having the ball in the second half, that opening kickoff, that, you know, we had a chance to close it. Never worried of, you know, can we come back? Because I felt offensively, you know, we can put points on the board real quick. For our young men, we just said we got 30 minutes. You know, we got to look at each other and say we're not going to let each other down, and we don't want any regrets. And I thought our young men came out second half and really executed.
You guys have been looking for all season for the running backs to kind of find their success in the run game alongside Bo. Obviously, a career day for Jaden today. What did you kind of think from him?
Yeah, we've known that. You know, you saw it maybe against Michigan State when he breaks off. So, you know, for most running backs, is, you know, breaking that one tackle, and he has the speed, he has the explosion, but to see the productivity that he, you know, provides us. So, you know, and you got to give the credit to those guys up front that are blocking for him. And, you know, I saw they had, 9 carries, averaging 16.6. I think he had 10 yards per last week. So the touches that he does get, he's making the most of, and he's only going to get better for us.
When you were talking in your presser earlier this week, you were talking about that next man up mentality, talking specifically about Matt Keeley getting that first group
Yeah.
at Dakota State. You have guys like Nick Bowser step up on the defense.
Nick Bowser, how about that?
What
Yeah.
do you say about the culture of this program?
Good, yeah. I mean, Nick Nielsen stepped up at right tackle today. I don't know if you guys know, he started at, you know, right tackle. And then, you know, D-line, you know, we had Colin Vaughn out this week, and, you know, guys like Nick Bowser, who's a walk-on from Hubbard High School. You know, Nick does great on scout team, and, you know, we said, would we be worried about putting him in there? No, he's strong. He gives great effort, and he made a great play. You know, and that's what Nick does. We always, in 2-minute defense, they always have him in, and he's always creating havoc, you know, to our one offense. So, you know, you kind of see those things during the week, you know, but to see a young man rise up, and, you know, proud of those guys, you know, because it is. You know, we're down in the fourth quarter with Alex McDowell going out. We're down to 1 tight end. You know, you're trying to run the clock out, you know, and you don't have the 2 tight ends that you're used to having when you go 12 personnel. So for us, you got to continue to develop those young guys, whether they're freshmen, whether whoever they are, and have those guys ready. Mike Wright was a true freshman defensive tackle that played today, you know, because of the defensive tackle. So to see those guys go in there and hold up, you know, couldn't be more proud of those guys.
Look, I know you're an old school guy, respect the game, respect the opponent. I mean, not to single out Kai, but again, he had an unsportsmanlike after a touchdown. It did cost you today, but if this was a closer game, that could have been a major. You talk about
all the time.
When they score a
Yeah.
touchdown, I mean,
Yeah, all the time. You know, we said it this week. You know, I told them, you know, they had a celebration. Now, I don't know what's right. I watch games. Other teams, you know, are spiking the ball. You watch, and there's no call. So I don't know where it is. You know, the celebration of where you get a group of guys, you know, I think rolling dice and said we don't want to do that because guys get excited when they score and, you know, putting the ball, spiking it. I don't know where it is because you see it and you see no flags, you know, but for us, you know, the old school, you know, hand the ball back to the official and, you know, the next time he scored a touchdown, that's exactly what he did. You know, and did the right thing. So, you know, for us, you don't want to be put in where you're kicking off from the 20 because now that negates all the momentum that you're able to build up.
you know, from a fan standpoint, I think this game had a difficult flow. From a coaching standpoint, did it?
Yeah, it did. And, you know, they came out, you know, hit some, you know, it started with we were offsides on the opening kickoff, which is a 5-yard penalty, and then they hit the deep post route, you know, and got really up on us really quick. You know, last year, if you recall, we jumped on them 28-3, and they came back and beat us. You know, this year, you know, they really jumped on us quickly, and, you know, we had to fight back in the game, and, you know, just – you know, even defensively, I felt our guys were a little slow there in the first half. You know, I'm looking in their eyes, and, you know, we had to really go in and say, let's go. You know, we play our type of football. We're making mistakes that we normally haven't made. simple mistakes of eye discipline, allowing a tight end wide open down the field that's man-to-man. So, those are the areas where you got to continue to grow. And we cleaned it up, came out after half, and I thought our defense, played lights out there. I think it wasn't until the fourth quarter that they were able to score a couple there. But, one of those things is we're going to keep growing. I always say this in November, teams either head in this direction or they head in the other direction. And I think the Penguins, we got to continue going 1-0 and heading in the right direction.
The video showed that the lateral or whatever from Bo
Mm-hmm.
was backwards, and it was rolled forward. I mean, just talking that flow of the game.
That flow of the game, and I told our young men, guys, I cannot control officials. I cannot. I just know that any type of replay, we're never on the advantage one way or the other. So if we're at Illinois State and we feel like we scored the 2-point play or Max Tomczak catches the ball in the one, replay tells us we don't have enough film to overrule. When we do make the successful plays, now replay has the film to review or overturn the call. So it's one of those where you got to battle those things, and that's how you respond. And I thought our young men responded to all that. That took a touchdown off the board, even on Kai. I don't know if I see it hit the ground, but I can't change those. I cannot control what they do upstairs or the calls that they make on the field. All we can worry about is the effort we play with, the fundamentals we play with, and how we execute. And at the end of the day, if you execute the way you should, then you can score touchdowns and the defense can get off the field and get the ball back for our offense.
On field scoring 28 unanswered.
Felt pretty good, and we knew we could do that. And, when you do that, that's complimentary football. I'm glad you said that, because when you can score 28 unanswered, what's the defense doing? They're getting off the field. They're getting you the ball back and not allowing them to score touchdowns. We always say, they might make a big play, get in the red zone, we got to hold them to field goal. I think that right before half, when they were attempting a field goal, our defense held up, did not, give a touchdown up, held them to a long field goal, and they ended up missing. And, now you're going in with you're down 10, but you're getting the ball to start the second half. So we continue to harp. We don't change. We're pretty consistent when it comes to complimentary football. Offensively, we want ball security, number one. Did they take care of the ball today? Yes, they did. We want to sustain drives and score touchdowns. Were we able to do that? Yes, we were. Special teams, we want to create two explosives. And I don't know if we did today or not. We got to go back. We had a muff punt. I mean, Max Tomczak's been for 4 years, hasn't muffed a punt. Today we did. Guess what? We got to respond to it. And then defensively, being relentless is, holding them to 3 points, and playing with great fundamentals. We did not play with great fundamentals that first half, but I was proud how our young men responded in the second half and came ready to play football. And that's how you get a 28-0 run going.
Were there any particular, you mentioned in the first half maybe like seeing the defense be kind of like a step close, or were there any particular adjustments that you guys made? Because it seems like, from there after the deficit in the second half, you see guys in the second day breaking up passes. They're not necessarily step behind. Was there kind of a change?
Sometimes it's not as much as the changes. We probably play more middle of the field safety, to take away some of those post routes, put a free safety back. But it's just them realizing, and we say this every week, and it starts on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We all have bad habits. And if you don't clean those bad habits up during the week, guess what's going to reappear when you get to Saturday? So we got to continue. We got to get back to work. We made some bad habits there in the first half, and they exposed it. Now we got to get better, because sometimes in the week you'll see it, and you'll tell them if you're doing it on a Wednesday, it's going to reappear on a Saturday. And those are the areas we got to continue as coaches to coach better, to get them better prepared, and to be ready to play football. As head coach, you always worry about, you come off a win. Our thing coming into this week, we're tired of almost. Tired of almost. You come off a game like North Dakota State, what's everyone saying? Oh, Coach, you're so close. You almost. I told her, kid, we're tired of that. We got to finish. And, that was a big part going into this week. Like, we got to say done, not almost. And so as a head coach, you always worry about that mindset when you're coming off a game. Because I hear it, right, Dana? I mean, you guys, I hear it 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sure they hear it from people. Oh, you guys are so close. You played so. No, we got to get results. We got to win football games. And so I was happy today that we found a way, resilience, persistence, toughness, that we were able to come back and get a hard-fought Missouri Valley Football Conference win against a team that's ranked. We needed ranked wins, right? You need ranked wins. But we got a lot of areas we got to clean up and get better as we move into this next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.